What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today I'll be breaking down the starts and sits for the Thursday game and taking a look at some different injury situations around the league. Obviously, we're not going to know players' final status right now. For some, we know they're already going to be out, but for most players, we don't know their final status, and there'll probably be other players that pop up on injury reports later on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. But it's still good to know what are the current injury situations right now and how are we going to maybe need to game plan moving forward. Also, just want to shout out that I added a new page to the website. It's showing what defenses have the best matchups in the fantasy playoffs, just in case you wanted to look ahead, start getting an idea of what defense you want to be adding that are playing, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Texans, things like that. So check that out if you haven't done so already. All right, so let's start things off as usual, the stat of the day. Yesterday, or actually it wasn't yesterday, the Monday's stat was last week, what quarterback scored the most fantasy points with one or fewer touchdowns? The answer is Derek Carr. At BenL27 was first to get that right on Twitter, and Sean Rush was the first to get that right on YouTube. Today's stat. Among wide receivers with at least 100 targets, who has the lowest catch percentage? All right, let's talk about Thursday Night Football. So this matchup will be Dallas traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Cowboys currently 4.5-point road favorites. Up, I think it opened at 3.5, but it was like 3.5 or 4. So moving in favor of the Cowboys here. And the total is slightly above average, 47.5, but barely above average. On the Cowboys side, Jerry Jones said that not only will Zeke play, he's going to have a significant workload. He must not be watching the games because Zeke clearly needs some time off. He does not look right. Regardless, you're starting Zeke if he's out there, unless, another story happens to come out where before the game we see reports that they're going to alternate drives, that they are going to, reduce the workload of Zeke, then I'll change the rankings. But that report would need to come out. Nothing comes out saying that. I'm going off reports that it's going to be normal. Normal split in the workload. Because of that, I'd say, again, you're starting Zeke. You're not starting Tony Pollard. The Saints have allowed the fewest schedule-adjusted fantasy points to the running back position. They rank first in rush defense DVOA, third in yards per carry allowed. They are an extremely strong run defense. It is not a spot you want to attack, especially secondary running backs on a team. Again, if Zeke ends up being out, that'd surprise me as of right now, but if you were out, you're obviously starting Tony Pollard, right? But if Zeke is playing, I don't think you can start the second running back on a team against the Saints, even if he's good when he gets the ball. It's just not going to have enough volume, really tough spot. But again, I think Zeke's going to have enough of a workload. If they're giving him normal workload, it's like 13 to 15 carries, maybe 4 or 5 targets, and that's enough even if he's going to be, limited in his health, limited with how good the matchup is. He can still score a touchdown. He'll still be involved. I think you're still playing him, just reducing expectations. For wide receivers, it honestly looks unlikely that Amari Cooper is going to play. If he does end up being out, then Lamb is like a mid-range one, but you knew that. You were starting him anyways. And Gallup would move up to like a low-end wide receiver 2. Obviously, the Saints just have a strong defense in general. There's no matchups you're looking to attack there. But of course, if you can't run on them, it's, more likely you're going to be throwing the ball. Cedric Wilson is also looking questionable, though his absence wouldn't really do anything, right? Like you could start considering Noah Brown in maybe like 14 or 16 team leagues, but even then, it's sort of thin. So even if we see Cedric Wilson being out, Cooper being out, like Noah Brown is just fine, right? If Cooper's active, I think you're playing Cooper. You're starting Lamb. Gallup now moves down to more of like a lower end flex play, someone that could still hit because they do like to target him deep downfield. He could catch, 2 balls that are 30, 40 yards downfield. That's going to make his day, especially if one of them ends up being a touchdown. But he would see a not enough consistent volume to really be worth being a wide receiver 2. But again, kind of low end flex play under that situation. And then we move to the tight end where it matters for Schultz. If Cooper is out, Dalton Schultz is like, a mid-range tight end 1. He'd see a pretty good amount of volume. He would see work in the red zone. He'd be a really strong play. the matchup doesn't like favor tight ends, but matchups don't really matter too much. Like unless you're looking at the extremes, like a top 3 defense, a bottom 3 defense for tight ends, then they matter. In general, if something's like fairly neutral like this one is, it's entirely dependent on volume. So again, if Cooper is out, Schultz could play. If Cooper is playing, like a low end tight end one for Schultz, still not a bad play, but certainly not as good. That kind of does it though. Obviously, you're playing Dak. I don't think you really want to play either defense in this game. Both have strong defenses, but both have like competent offenses. And especially if we're going to get to Taysom Hill, if he's starting at quarterback, they're going to run the ball so much that you probably don't want to be playing Dallas because their opportunities for turnovers will be lessened if they're running the ball every play. So I'd probably stay away from the defenses here. For the Saints, more injury news, of course. Mark Ingram practiced in full Monday, full Tuesday. He's going to play, right? Unless he suffers an injury later today or like somehow in the morning of the game, Mark Ingram's going to play. We can drop Tony Jones. The real question here is Alvin Kamara. He's been limited both days and is truly questionable. My guess, and it's only like a 50-50 guess, is that he does play and that the workload is not even close to what it was before, that they kind of alternate drives. They bring in Kamara for a few plays. They bring in Ingram for a few plays. Maybe they do lean on Ingram a little more towards the red zone, but it's just a guess right now. If Kamara ends up being out, this is a great spot for Mark Ingram. He should be played as a low-end running back one. If Kamara is active, again, I think that they're going to split the workload. I would still prefer Alvin Kamara because he's better, right? He's just more talented. So if I think the split's going to be roughly even, I want the more talented player. But it would still be Kamara as like a mid to low end 2 and Ingram as like that low end 2 to flex play. I think both are viable. Neither is like a slam dunk running back one. Obviously, again, it depends on the news we get later today and on Thursday. If something comes out that he's playing but he's going to be like playing, he's barely going to be used, things will shift. So just watch the rankings on that one. The other big news is Taysom Hill is expected to start. That is not confirmed. I hope we get some sort of confirmation again later today or tomorrow. But if that is not confirmed, you're not starting any of their quarterbacks, right? If it comes out that it's like Taysom Hill's probably going to play quarterback, like you can't be trusting that, right? Because it's not a good enough spot. Even if we got a confirmed Taysom Hill starting, he's probably only in that quarterback like 14 to 16 range. Remember that, yes, he's mobile, but he's dealing with like a painful foot injury. So it's pretty unlikely he's going to take off and scramble and run for like 100 yards and multiple scores. And we already know he doesn't have the greatest pass catchers to throw to. So he's probably going to be projected around like 200 passing yards, maybe a touchdown. That's what, 12 points, add in the rushing. Like he's going to be projected in that, like off the top of my head, 15 to 17 range. But the ceiling, like he's not going to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, I said he's unlikely to run for a ton of yards because of the foot injury. So he's not a fantastic play. He's just a fine streaming option. And if we don't get that confirmation, you're obviously not taking that risk. And honestly, I don't want the pass catchers. You're obviously not starting any of the tight ends. I don't really want Traquan Smith or Marquez Callaway. Smith would be the one I'd lean on more because he is their number one. But honestly, you can do better. Unless you're in a 14 or 16 team league, I would stay away from all those guys. All right, that kind of does it for the Thursday game. Now let's talk about some injury situations around the league. Again, we're not going to know the final status of these guys. It's only Wednesday right now, and Wednesday's honestly a big rest day in general, so we learned so much more on Thursday and a ton on Fridays. But here are the situations I'm watching. For players that I'm expecting to be out this week, Daniel Jones with a neck injury, no real impact here. Losing him doesn't really hurt the skill players all that much because he's not all that good, and you're not streaming Mike Glennon anyways, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Maybe their offense is slightly less efficient, but like Daniel Jones is not that good, so it's not a huge downgrade. Dalvin Cook, shoulder injury. Going to miss at least the next 2 games, maybe more beyond that. It makes Madison a running back 1 in both matchups, and it makes Kene, I'm going to butcher this last name, Nwagwu? I really can't pronounce it, but it makes Kene or Kine, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. It makes him an interesting ad in deeper formats. He is very, very athletic. He can take a touchdown to the house on any play, and so he's a threat to post a good game, even if we're pretty sure that Madison's going to be the feature back. If he's only getting a few touches in a deeper format, he could do something. He's an interesting ad. I think I added him in my 14-team league. He was already owned in the 16-team league. And then I didn't do it in 12, so I think that's kind of your range is 14 and 16. But an interesting ad nonetheless. Could Madison get hurt and this kid's featured after that? Maybe. But again, I think he's athletic enough where he's worth owning in like competitive 12-team leagues or like 14 and 16-team leagues for sure. Deebo Samuel, groin injury. He should miss 1 to 2 weeks, kind of what I'm seeing. But, ask Curtis Samuel how annoying groin injuries can be, right? You never know. You can aggravate these things and miss more. But 1 to 2 weeks is kind of what I'm thinking. Obviously, Ayuk is going to see more looks now with that injury. And it seems like Juwan Jennings is the number 2. So if you're looking for someone to add from this injury in a 14 or 16-team league, Juwan Jennings is the guy. But not in a 12. You don't need to go there in a 12-team league. They'll just kind of use the running backs a little bit more. They'll lean on Ayuk. They'll lean on Kittle. It doesn't mean that a third weapon in the passing game is necessarily getting a ton of looks. DeAndre Swift, shoulder injury. He might not miss this week, but I imagine he's going to. If he does, Jamal Williams is going to be a featured back. He's going to be projected as a low-end running back 1 against the Vikings. I don't know exactly where he is because my rankings come out Wednesday night, Thursday, but he's going to be probably, I would guess, in that running back 9 to 13. That's where I would guess he would kind of fall. You're pretty much just starting him in any format. Darren Waller, knee injury. All we know is that he's week to week. I'm assuming he's going to miss this game, but I think we're going to learn a lot more today, tomorrow. If he's out, you could honestly just add Foster Moreau, just play him for whatever weeks that Waller misses. He was pretty good as a streaming option the last time we had to do that. And so he's definitely not a lock because he's Foster Moreau, right? Even Darren Waller wasn't doing phenomenal when he was playing. But, if you were like, oh no, there's no one on free agency, Foster Moreau is on free agency. I can promise you that. And so you can just add him, use him for the time being. But basically, the biggest beneficiary, in my opinion, here is Hunter Renfrow. He sees those similar targets, that short intermediate area of the field. Clearly, Carr likes Renfrow. And so I would think that he would be honestly like a low-end wide receiver 2 for any weeks now that Waller is going to miss. Pat Freiermuth, concussion. He has a chance to play, obviously, because if he passes the concussion protocol, he'll play. But monitor this one. I don't know when he's going to pass the concussion protocol. Nothing really changes if he's out. Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Harris, they're all going to see a slight bump in targets, but it's not like, they're missing 12 targets a game, right? They're just kind of evenly dispersed that. And so maybe everyone sees like one more target, including like ancillary players, backup tight ends, but it's like one more target, right? It's not really changing all that much. Dan Arnold, knee injury, probably going to miss the rest of the season. Looks like we're only a few more injuries away from them realizing that Laviska Shenault should probably be getting more targets if they want to look at least half competitive on offense. But I don't know. It just seems like we have all these injuries, all these opportunities for Marvin Jones and Laviska to be used, and then they're not. So who really knows what Jaguars are going to do? But one would think this is going to help Laviska. Chase Edmonds and Michael Carter both still on IR with their ankle injuries. Situations for both those backfields remain the same for at least one more week. Calvin Ridley, personal time. We haven't gotten any sort of update on this one. I don't think he's going to return this week, but I guess we're probably not going to know. It's probably just going to be like he's back kind of thing. But again, it's not like he's going to show up on Sunday, right? He's going to show up probably early in the week and be like, I'm playing this week. He's not just going to all of a sudden appear, and be like, oh, I'm part of the game plan. I'm playing on Sunday, right? So the fact that he hasn't shown up yet, he's not playing this week. I expect that to remain the exact same as it was before. Some players I expect to play, but are by no means a lock to return, are Darrell Henderson, quad injury. They play the Jaguars, so maybe they just hold him out because it's the Jaguars, right? They'll win anyways. But this is a big one, right? If he plays, start him. He's going to be really good. If he's out, start Sony Michel. He's going to be really good. Whoever's starting running back there is going to be good. Odell has a hip pointer. He was clearly hurt last week, but he's not expected to miss any time, so I would treat him the same as last week. He's an upside flex play, but obviously one that could post 3 points. Jalen Hurts has a foot injury. He is in a smash spot against the Jets, so hopefully he's able to play. They don't seem too worried, so I'm not going to be too worried, but monitor that one. I'm also expecting Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins to play this week, of course, with ankle and hamstring injuries. They were both relatively close 2 weeks ago, especially Kyler being really close. Then they held him out just to be safe. They've had the bye, so it's 2 weeks since they were close to returning. I would imagine they play. Each pass catcher obviously gets a downgrade when Hopkins returns, but then gets an upgrade when Kyler returns. So if they're both returning, it's kind of net neutral, maybe a slight downgrade, but Kirk, Moore, pretty similar outlooks, honestly, because again, the quarterback play is worse, so they're less efficient. So increase that, increase the efficiency, increase the chance that they lean on quarterback play, but then decrease the total targets because Hopkins is back. So relatively neutral there. And then finally, I expect Miles Sanders to be able to play this week, but I am not confident in saying that. It doesn't seem like a major injury, but watch this one, obviously. Benefit to Boston Scott, and we'll talk about in a second, Jordan Howard, potentially, if they're back. But there's just such a large amount of potential outcomes here. Like, could all three be active? Yes. Could only Boston Scott be active? Yes. Because there's so many permutations, we're not going to go over all of them. I'll save that for the Friday running back start sits video if we get more information. Again, my guess is that Miles Sanders play, but it's like a 60-40 guess. Last but not least, we will go over some players I have absolutely no read on. We're just going to need more information because I have absolutely no idea if they're going to play this week. It is Allen Robinson with a hamstring injury, Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard with quad injuries, Corey Davis with a groin injury, Jordan Howard with that knee injury, Antonio Brown with this ankle injury. It seems like he'll be back, but who really knows who they be? Jeremy McNichols with the concussion. Again, I will give updates on all of these players as part of the Friday and Saturday start sit videos, but watch the reports for these players in particular this week because I have absolutely no idea what is going to happen with these guys. So that'll do it for this one. If you like this video, then please let me know and I'll keep doing it moving forward. I think it's helpful because you get the start sits before the Thursday games, and then you also get some sort of heads up with these injury situations. But let me know if you want to keep it or not. So that'll do it for this one. Hope you all did enjoy. If you did, then how about hitting that like button, and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.